So Capricorn, at the turn of each year, the sun is always in your zodiac sign. But this year, you have the wonderful duo of Venus and Mars, either side of the sun. And they're both going to come into exact conjunctions with the sun in the early part of the year, which really does create a huge amount of excitement and positivity for you. It could be about brand new beginnings. It may be about injecting ongoing strands with greater flair and passion. But what's also going to happen on the 1st is that Mercury, the planet of communication, which has been going through a complex zigzag through your 12th and 11th houses, arrives in your zodiac sign. And that's really positive too. But as this month goes on, there is a bit of a juggle. There's a full moon on the 3rd in your opposite sign. What's that about? And also we have a new moon in Capricorn on the 18th. But I'm really delighted to tell you it's absolutely glistening with possibilities. But we do have on the 17th Venus moving into perhaps the most beneficial part of your chart for finance, and through to the end of the month good news could be heading your way. If you've yet to order your personal forecast for the year ahead, you can do so, and you'll get 12 full months from when you order it if you order in January. If you order it in December 2025, you'll get the rest of that year 3 and the whole of the following 12 months. You'll also get your life roadmap report, which is truly influential in terms of understanding our life journey. But at the checkout, if you apply the code Astro26, you'll get 50% off. So on the screen now is the event chart right at the start of December. There's the sun in your zodiac sign, as he always is, at 10 degrees and 34. But you can see that we have Venus on one side and Mars on the other. Now, in traditional astrology, Venus not quite being connected to the sun would be seen as being combust, and the sun will overpower the more magical and more alluring vibe of Venus. But I feel in modern astrology that's a very positive alliance, because the sun can certainly give us a lot of thrust, but what Venus can do is bring some guile, some nuance, some charm. And Mars, very much about desire and urgency, is in the mix as well. So it's really a message to you to believe in what makes you different. And that's going to be amplified by the new moon of the 18th. But Mercury, unfortunately, is locked away in your 12th house for the 3rd year in succession, in a very tender right angle with Neptune and Saturn, your ruler, and in a jarring quincunx with Uranus in a very creative part of your chart. So what does that mean? Although Mercury moves later on the 1st of January into your sign, I think some psychological energies can still be washing around, ones that have been quite powerful towards the latter part of 2025. I feel if there are people around you that you're not sure about, what this event chart's telling you as you come into the new year is you must concentrate on what you're doing and not worry so much if not everybody is understanding your qualities and your attributes and don't admire you as much as you might like. So there may be some fair weather friends that need to make way as you come into this month. But once you really go for it and become much more focused on what's important to you, there is so much potential. Now, your sector of relationships continues to be lit up by the energy of Jupiter, the greater benefit. But Jupiter is in a retrograde. Don't worry, Jupiter forges a superb link to Saturn, your ruler, at the start of this new year. So if you're sincere in your relationships and what you're saying, any kind of relationship, people will understand that. But Chiron has been having quite the impact on your emotional world over the last few years, since around about February 2019, and since July it's been in a retrograde. It's going to go direct on the 2nd of January, and that will give you an opportunity to perhaps come to terms with some parts of your nature or your situation, perhaps in close relationships where you don't feel quite as seen or heard as you could be, and it is in a square with Jupiter. That square does really suggest that you shouldn't be too availing to people who haven't respected you as much as they could have done. And the moon, obviously very much about our emotional dimension, is in a very pragmatic part of your chart, and it's asking you to use that earthy energy to keep things solid, and it's actually in a very strong link with Pluto. So transformation around the foundations of your life is really possible, but particularly later in the month. So as I mentioned, Mercury, although it forges that jarring right angle to Neptune and Saturn, which could just make you more conscious of who perhaps has disappointed you over the holidays. There may have been some politics or an atmosphere or stuff you saw on social media that got you down a little bit. But Mercury pitching up in your sign later on the 1st is really saying, look, I love being in Capricorn. This is where I can really initiate. Mercury can be about marketing, for example, but the first house is very much the expression of your individual ideas. Now, if you're someone who has felt that you've existed in a bigger structure in a more comfortable way, I think you're really being pushed at the start of this new year to think about how you can really take a firmer grip on your life direction and be much more the leader. You are a sign of leadership for sure, and can often bring enormous wisdom and experience to situations. But if you are a creative, this early chart at the start of the new year glistens with possibilities, and that becomes much more obvious as we have the Cazimis which start to unfold for this month, which is extraordinarily rare. But before that, we do have the full moon on the 3rd. It's a full moon in the sign of Cancer. The moon loves being here, of course, but it is in an opposition with Mars. If there are tensions between what you want to do and the focus that the planets are suggesting that you should have on what makes you uniquely you, but there's someone around you who feels a bit pushed out, neglected, or doesn't feel you're being as considerate as they feel you should be, it may come into focus over the following week. But it's going to be an interesting second week of the new year because of Jupiter opposing the Sun, but also Mars. If there are some politics to play out, a bit of a tussle between what you are prepared to give and what someone else wants from you, it may show up at this early stage. But the combination of Venus and the Sun in the Cazimi on the 6th really can help you to showcase your ingenious ideas with the maximum amount of elan. So whether it is through a written document, a video, a discussion, people can be drawn by how you say things as much as the ideas you're presenting. Now, in a personal context, if you are footloose and fancy free, the energy you're giving out in the early part of this month can make people much more conscious of your unique being and your individuality. So your sex appeal is really going to skyrocket, and that becomes much more obvious on the 8th, Venus and Mars conjunction. On the 9th, the Sun Cazimi with Mars. But it's all about you having the confidence to not worry so much about what other people want and expect. I'm not talking about very close relationships, but if there are some peripheral energies that have been draining you, just push those to one side. Be single-minded. Go for the goal that's important for you. You can gain an incredible amount of traction as the month goes on. But as I mentioned before, Venus is going to be relocating on the 17th. When Venus moves into the 2nd house of each zodiac sign's chart, almost metronomically good news will turn up. Some kind of financial benefit can manifest itself in the second half of this month for you. You just need to keep going with the inventive, creative stuff that you're passionate about in the early part of the month. But on the 18th, the Sun, the Moon combine along with Mercury and Mars, we have a new moon. What a new moon! Absolutely crammed full of potential in terms of energy, ideas, conviction, authority, vitality, it's all about really going for it and perhaps taking a leap of faith, especially if you are someone who's a bit more on the cautious side. You really fit that archetype of the sign of Capricorn. You're really being primed up by the planets to seize an opportunity which is really quite rare, because that's a new moon that links superbly well to Saturn, your ruler. So the way you express your ideas, although they may be new, fresh, different, exciting, you can still get them across in a structured way that people can feel are real and are sustainable and are therefore authentic. But also we're going to have that collective of energy linking brilliantly to Uranus. And since 2019, March, nearly full time, apart from 4 months last year, Uranus has been really prompting you to be much more experimental. It may have shown up in your love life. It may have been around some interests and hobbies. It could have been around some of your own ingenious ideas. But all of those energies come together in a wonderful fulcrum on the 18th of this month. And in the following 4 weeks, it really can be an opportunity to turbocharge what you feel incredibly invested and passionate about over the following month. But then we have the Sun and Mercury playing catch up with Venus, followed by Mars. We also have more Cazimis. We have the Mercury Sun Cazimi of the 21st, and we have the Pluto Sun Cazimi, incredibly potent, on the 23rd too. Wow. And this is all about starting to see the creation, or the rebirth, if you like, of a new way of earning money for you. And if you can really go through this transition, it could be one of the most exciting things you've ever experienced in your life. But there could also be, to be honest, on the 27th, a big powerful disagreement over finance. And that's because Mars and Pluto are in a conjunction in your second house. The second house energy, it is about what we value. It can be about everyday money. It can be about our self-worth. It can be about our foundations. But it can also be what we're attached to in some ways. And that attachment issue could show up through the full moon and week 2 as well. But sometimes if we really feel that our talents, our qualities, our skills are worthy of a particular value, we do need to have the confidence to hold that. But of course we live in a world that's very competitive and very demanding, and where skills in some ways are downgraded because employers feel they can get the value, and if you don't offer what they want, they go for the cheaper option. So there is a dumbing down going on. So you may need to juggle that desire to get exactly what you're worth with the financial reality of what's out there. But in lots of different ways, if you have been really inventive early in January, you could start to see the fruits of your labour come through in a very potent way towards the end of the month. And even if it's around a hobby or interest that you're getting into at the turn of the year, if you're starting to get the hang of it, the enjoyment factor, the personal satisfaction, but the sense of enhancement of your value as a person can all show up incredibly powerfully as January comes to a close. If you've yet to order your personal forecast for the year ahead, you can do so, and you'll get 12 full months from when you order it if you order in January. If you order it in December 2025, you'll get the rest of that year 3 and the whole of the following 12 months. You'll also get your life roadmap report, which is truly influential in terms of understanding our life journey. But at the checkout, if you apply the code ASTRO26, you'll get 50% off. All the best and goodbye.